Hi everyone! So, some of you will have seen my 6x6 version of this card. Some of you would have seen my 5x7 portrait version of this card. So now I introduce to you the 5x7 landscape version, and this time I've added an aperture in the middle as well, just to really, beef it up a little bit more. Why not? So yeah, so this is a 5x7 diamond staggered pillar card with aperture. So I really like the way it's turned out. It's very nice. Stands up nicely. The little sentiment in the middle, I've deliberately done it. I measured it all out, so then that literally sat slap bang in the middle. So you could get this nice and square if you want to, and you can still see it through the middle. The whole thing folds flat, so all your pillars go in like that, and it folds and it will fit in an envelope for a 5x7 card. And then on the back, you have quite a lot of space to write. If you wanted to, you could actually put a flat piece like I have with these. You could do the same mechanism as that and have it on the back and have a big piece on the back like I did with the 6x6 version. I decided to go for just two flat pieces on that one. So that's that one. And then if you haven't already seen that one, I will try and link this in the description below and maybe up in the top right hand corner if I manage to remember. But yeah, so this is the 5x7 portrait. This is the 5x7 landscape. This one's got an aperture. This one hasn't. You could add an aperture to this one if you wanted to as well. You haven't got as much to play with on the inside, but you could. I did also think about maybe putting this as a dangly, but I thought I'd like it to be sort of, stuck in one place. So yeah, so there you go. The papers that I've used for this one is my Holly Spriggs paper pad. Now I did make that quite a while ago and I've since remastered it. So the remastered copy, which has more pages in it and has colour on the back of all the pattern pages like my normal pads have, is now available on Amazon. It's also available as a digital kit over on my Ko-fi shop. And the other thing as well I've just tweaked some of the designs slightly. So this is actually from the original pad and it was quite a wide stripe, and I decided that after using it I found it quite difficult to use because the stripe is quite wide. So I've actually made this stripe a little bit narrower and to try and make it a bit more usable, and I've changed a couple of the other patterns in there as well that I wasn't happy with first time around. So that's that. This here is from my Yuletide Wishes paper pad, and these is from my Festive Soldiers paper pad. That was Yuletide Wishes as well. All of those are available on Amazon, and they're also available as digital kits over on Ko-fi. The Holly Spriggs, the original one, and also the Festive Soldiers is available on DRK Crafts, but the new Holly Spriggs, the Yuletide Wishes, and the Festive Soldiers, as I've just mentioned, are available in my Ko-fi shop. So please don't forget to go and check those out. And without further ado, let's get into it. Okay, so you're going to need two pieces that are 5x7, and on these you're going to score them along the 7-inch edge, and you're going to score them at 1 inch, 3.5, and 6. And you want to do both of those pieces. If you wanted to, you could get a 7x10 and then just score down the 7-inch length, and then cut it up, which would then mean you're only scoring once. So that's that. You also need two pieces that are 3 inches by 4 inches, and along the 4-inch edge you are going to score at 1/2 inch, 1.5, 2.5, and 3.5. So both pieces. Make sure whatever base card you're using does not crack easily when you fold it. I think I'm going to be all right with this, but yeah, just make sure that it's not something that cracks easily. You also need two pieces of base card that are 1.5 by 4, and you can do the same score lines again on the 4-inch edge. So 1/2 inch, 1.5, 2.5, and 3.5. If you wanted to, you could just get a big long piece like this, and this would be like 9 inches. So you could get a piece that's 4 by 9. Do all your score lines and then cut it up into your two pieces that are 3-inch and your two pieces that are 1.5. So that would make things a little bit easier. So then with these, you're going to score valley, mountain, valley. Okay, so you should end up with two pieces that look like that. So next up, we want to go ahead and fold and burnish all of our score lines on these pieces. So you should end up with them all looking like that. So next up, we just want to go ahead and stick down some of our pattern pieces. So if we start with these here, in total, you're going to need 8 pieces that are 3/4 by 1 1/4. And you are going to stick them on here, and you need 6 on here. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And then the remaining 2, just hold on to them. We are going to use them, but we will come back to those in a minute. So I'm going to go ahead now and just stick these down. Okay, so those are those 2 bits done. And as I said, I've got 2 pieces left over, and that's fine. I'm just going to put them up there for now. Then you need to get yourself 4 pieces, and these measure 3/4 of an inch by 2 3/4. And these are going to go just on these outside pieces here. Okay, so you've got a tab, then a panel, then nothing, then a panel, then a tab. So they're going to go on there. Okay, so that is all the decorating we can do for now. So on these pieces at least. So then if we bring these back in again, what we're going to do is go ahead and add on 2 white pieces. So this is going to be my back section. 2 white pieces, and these are 2 1/4 by 4 3/4. Obviously, if you want to stamp a greeting, you can now. You might want to just do 1 white and 1 pattern. It's up to you. I'm going to do 2 white pieces. So we're going to go ahead and stick those down. Okay, so that's what you end up with. Now, these 2 pieces here, again, you can leave them as they are, but I quite like adding a little bit of pattern paper. So I've got 2 pieces there that are 3/4 by 4 3/4. So I'm going to go ahead and stick those down. So you should end up with that. Now we're going to flip it over, and in the middle here, we are actually going to put some pattern paper. Now the paper I'm using here is from my Holly Spriggs pattern paper pad, but this is the old one. So this is the one that's just single-sided, and so this stripe is quite wide. I've remastered this particular pattern paper pad, and this stripe is kind of not as thick. It's smaller and easier to manage. So anyway, I'm going to go ahead and stick these down on the inside here. Okay, so you should end up with that. So we're going to put that one to the one side for now. Now let's bring in our other piece that we haven't done anything to. So on this one, what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and stick down 2 pieces of pattern paper. So these are exactly the same size as the patterns we've already used and the white piece. So these are 2 1/4 by 4 3/4. So I'm going to stick that on the front there. Now, if you want to, because I'm actually going to cut an aperture and I'm going to have a border, but I've already cut my border out because I didn't want to have to do the pattern and then the base card like we sometimes do. But one thing you do need to make sure is that you put tape or glue all over the back. Now, because I'm using mirror card, I'm not going to use glue. So I'm going to have to fully tape these down to within an inch of their lives. So I'm going to go ahead now and add some tape on the back of here and then stick them onto these 2 panels there. Okay, so there is my pattern paper stuck down. So what I've done is I've grabbed a circular die. Now this one measures 3 inches across. Okay, so I've used a 3 inches circle. And what we're going to do is we are going to put this onto here like that. And then I'm going to tape it in place with some low tack tape. And I'm going to make sure that I'm only going to tape it down on the inside of the circle, just in case it decides it wants to tear. So we're going to tack that on that, and I'm going to run that through my die cutting machine. Okay, so I went ahead and cut that out, and I thought I was recording and I wasn't. So after that, what I did was I also had already pre-cut a border. So this is actually stuck on the top, and I did show you how to do this, but obviously it wasn't recording. So yeah, so I'd already pre-cut out of my base card a piece that had the center circle cut out of it, and then I used a scalloped edge circle around the outside and actually made a border. And I actually made sure that I put double-sided tape on the back of the card before I die cut it. So then that meant that sticking this down into place was easier. Because what I would have done, the way I sort of usually do it, is I usually do it so you cut the circle out of the base card, then you put your pattern paper on, line your die, well, you kind of don't stick it down, but kind of sort of just lay it down and kind of tack it into place. Then you put your frilly border on, and then die cut the pattern paper and then stick the pattern paper over the top. But I decided that was a bit of a faff, so I thought, let me just make a little border that I can just stick on the top. So I've done that and I've stuck that down. So next up, what I was explaining to you when I suddenly realized that it wasn't recording is that we've brought in the back piece again, and then I've cut myself out 2 pieces of base card, and these measure 1 1/4 by 2 1/4. And I've just scored them along the 2 1/4 edge at 1/2 inch and at 1 3/4. And then we've just folded them like a little S shape. So I folded a mountain and then a valley. And then what I was just doing when I realized that we weren't recording is so with the mountain and the valley, this is be the left hand piece. On so I've got obviously gold on one side and I've got white on the other. If you use a double-sided piece of base card, it's easier, it's better, because then you haven't got to worry about any kind of white showing. But anyway, I've got what I've got. So on the right side, I've done as opposed to the wrong side, I've done some red tape just on this tab here, and then on this tab on the wrong side, I'm going to put some red tape. So that's the bit I'm about to do now. So that's what the wrong side looks like, and that's what the right side looks like. Now my card has cracked here, so just as I said before, make sure that your card doesn't matter too much for this because you're not going to see that bit. So it's not actually the end of the world. So on this one, we're going to do the same again. So I'm going to leave it the same way round, even though we're going to flip it in a minute. But just so that I don't get confused. So on the mountain side of your card, you want to put red tape. And then you also want to put red tape on the other side, on the wrong side of that piece there. So you should end up with 2 pieces that look like that. So I'm just going to spin this one round so they're now kind of mirror image of each other. And then we're going to bring our back piece in. And what I want to do is bring the front piece in as well and just lay one on top of the other, making sure it's nicely lined up like that. And I'm actually going to quickly just peg this into place just so I know where we want it to be. So let's just peg that there. And I'm going to put a peg on the bottom as well, just why not? Okay, and then what we want to do is we're going to take one of these and we want to stick it. Let me just move that along a little bit. We want to stick it so that this fold line here lines up with that center fold line, and you want to fold this tab over. So we're going to take the backing off that little tab there, going to fold that over like that, and then making sure this is dead central pretty much, we're going to make sure that this fold line here lines up with that center fold line, and we're going to stick that into place like that. So you should end up with this little weird tab. Then we're going to take, so fold that one out of the way. Then we're going to take this one and we're going to do the same. So I'm going to fold that under. I'm going to fold this back and I want it to line up with the one I've just done. So let's bring them both in like that. And then we want to stick them down. So you end up with that. So if I just turn it sideways, two little Zs sticking up like that. And then with it folded down and those little tab pieces folded back on themselves. So if I hold this up, you can see. So if I fold these down like that, you then want to make sure you've got some kind of greeting. Now I've made sure this greeting is smaller than my aperture, only slightly, but it is smaller than my aperture. So what I want to do now is I'm going to take off the backing and I'm going to have to do both pieces at the same time. Actually, I could do one then the other. Yeah, let me do one then the other. So I'm going to do one piece like this. And then we're going to take our little greeting. Make sure it is straight and central. And stick it down like that. So it's only stuck on that one side. And then I'm going to take the backing off this one. Fold that down, and stick that down. And then what happens is when you pop it, you should end up with this piece in the middle. So it kind of stands up. I'm going to take this off now for a second. So it kind of, let me just hold that into place. So it is in the center of the aperture, but it still allows it to stand up. And hopefully, and I've spent ages measuring this to make sure this is right, that middle piece should be bang on where this line here. So if you drew a line from here across to here, you see how that centerpiece, that circle, fits pretty much bang on. And so that's what we want. Now, if you wanted to, you could also add a piece of, and I did consider this, you could add a piece of thread and have it dangling, but I thought I want it to be the right way up. So that's why we've done that. So now we just need to go ahead and stick this one onto there. Obviously, we're not completely finished yet. You could just stop here and not bother with any pillars if you wanted to. So I am going to go ahead now and add some, I'm going to add red tape just onto these two tab pieces here. And then I'm going to take the backing off. I'm just going to take it partially off like this. Just kind of fold it back like that. Now make sure if you've got right way up paper, make sure it matches the, you know, the orientation of your greeting. And you want to line this up nice and accurately like that. And then slide your tape backing out. And then we're going to do the same on this side. It's a bit easier with this one. So you end up with that. Now, obviously, if you want to stop there, you could stop there. It's quite a nice card as it is. But we're going to go even further. So I'm going to put this to one side for the moment. So we're going to come back to that. I'm going to bring these pieces back in again. And what we're going to do is on these 2 1/2-inch tabs either side, I'm just going to go ahead and add some red tape. Again, you could use wet glue, but because I'm using a mirror card, I'm using red tape. So you should end up with that. I'm also going to add red tape onto the tabs on here as well. Okay, so this is what we've got so far. So then we're going to take off the backing on here, and I'm just going to take partially off, fold that tab over, bring this piece in, and then we're going to line up this. In fact, actually, let me do it the right way around. And I stuck this paper. This paper is kind of non-directional, but it kind of isn't. So let me just quickly change that round. So that's the right way up. So I've taken the backing off a little bit, folded it over, fold that tab over, and then we're going to line that score line up with the edge of our card, and we're going to go ahead and stick that down so it's nice and straight. Pull that backing out like that. So that leaves us with that. And then we are going to take this backing, and I'm going to take it off completely, and we're going to fold it over with the second score line here like that, and then stick the whole thing down flat, and that gives you that little box. Now obviously you might, like me, have a single-sided card and it's all plain. That might bother you. You can add pattern pieces in, and I might do a pattern piece just in here later, maybe. We'll see. So that's that one, and then we'll do the same on this side. So again, we're going to go with the opposite side. So we start with this right hand side, fold that right hand tab over, line this up along the right hand side of the card and the bottom of the card, and then I'm going to stick that down like that. And then we're going to take the backing off this, and I'm going to take the whole lot of backing off, fold it along the second score line completely flat, and then fold and stick it down. Now when you fold and stick it down, just make sure it does stick properly. That I just felt that not quite stick properly, and proof of that is the fact that I've got a nice line in the middle there, so just be careful of that. So then we are going to take these, and I'm going to take the backing, just making sure my pattern paper is the right way around. Yeah, it is. I'm going to take the backing off that, and I've taken it completely off, which could be my undoing, but anyway, we're going to fold that tab over and then line this up with this score line that goes down here. And then you also want to make sure that along the bottom it lines up as well, and stick that down. And then we're going to take the backing off of this one, fold it on the second score line, and then we need to just fold that down flat like that. And then we're going to do the same with this side, just checking to see which way up. I think it goes that way up. I mean, as I said, it is sort of more or less non-directional, but it sort of is and isn't. And then we're going to fold that tab over, line that score line up with this score line here, and line it up along the bottom like that, and stick that down. And then let's grab the backing off here like that, fold it along the second score line, and then stick that whole thing down flat. So that should give you your pillars. Okay, so that's what you should end up with. So now obviously we need to decorate that. So we've got these two left over, and they're going to go there and there. So let's go ahead and stick those down. And then you're going to need two pieces for up here, and these are 3/4 by 1 3/4. And so again, just going to go ahead and stick those down. And so there you have your finished card. Now obviously if you want to add more on it, you can. But I really like the way this has turned out, and I like the fact I've got the aperture in the middle. So for those of you who've been following this series, that was the 5x7 portrait. This is the 5x7 landscape, and it folds down the same way as they all do. Nice and flat down in the centre, and then these pillars go inwards like that. And then that will fit in an envelope for a 5x7 card. And as you can see, it's nice and thin, so it will fit through the post, because if you haven't got mats, you've only got pattern pieces, and these pattern pieces are only about 100 GSM, so that's really good. If those bits in the middle bother you, you can always cover them up with something, or make that piece dark green or something, whatever your backing paper is. And again, if these bits in here bother you, which actually they don't bother me that much, to be fair, so I'm probably going to leave them, but you could put pieces in there as well. But yeah, I really like it. I like this. This whole series has been quite interesting. Actually, got quite a few ideas. So that's the two 5x7 versions. So hopefully you would have already seen this one, and then this one is the landscape. So yeah, hopefully you enjoyed it. Please don't forget to go and check out my Amazon pads, obviously over on Amazon, my paper pads. As I said before, this was Festive Soldiers. This was Yuletide Wishes. This one is the Holly Sprigs. That's from Yuletide Wishes. They're also available, all of those are available as digital kits over in my Ko-fi shop. The Holly Sprigs, I think, and definitely the Festive Soldiers are available on DRK Crafts. But yeah, so hopefully you go and check those out. Don't forget to like, subscribe, hit the notification bell so you never miss a video. Leave a comment down below which one's your favourite, and I will see you again next time. Bye.